Hey everybody, this is Michael Bryson for the This is Bodybuilding podcast. I'm here with Rachel Daniels, your 2020 New York Pro Women's Physique Champion. How are you, Rachel?
I'm doing just fine. How are you, Michael?
I'm good. Great to see you. Thank you for doing this with me. I appreciate it so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for getting girls on here. I like that.
Yeah, I think women need equal attention at least,
If not more.
Exactly. So what are your plans for the 2021 season?
Well, I'm to obviously had the Olympia in December, so had a little break and got some food back in me. I'm gonna get ready for New York Pro in May. I'm gonna defend my title. It's in Tampa again, which is where I live. So that was one of the convincing factors of last year of why I jumped in it. It's like 10 minutes from my house. So I was like, oh yeah, let's give it a shot. So now that it's here again, I see no reason not to do it. And I want to, defend my title. It's a really great show. And the promoters are always good, Tim and Steve and everyone involved. So I'm going to hop in New York Pro again and hopefully re-qualify for the Olympia.
I think that's probably going to happen. Yeah. So you turned pro at the Junior US Saves, right?
Yes, I was then August. It was August 28th, 2020, and then 6 days later on September 5th, I think it was, that I did New York Pro last year, first pro show.
That's pretty impressive. There's not too many people that I can think of. I think Derek Lunsford, and yourself, really, in terms of like recent history of people who have turned pro, win a pro show, and then do really, really well at the Olympia. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, everyone. Derek's my friend, so you pulled a Lunsford, Rachel. So that's it was. I didn't think I was gonna get on stage and do a pro show that early. I thought most people, year off or whatever. That's kind of the theme I saw in the industry. Like, oh, you got to take time off now that you're a pro to be able to get competitive with the pros. But I was already peeled. I was already dieted down. I had just had this good warm up show on stage. And I was like, my coach was like, why not? And, what's the worst that could happen? You lose a big pro show and you see how you look next to pros. And if anything, I would get judges' feedback for my off season either way. And then my off got pushed back a little because we had the Olympia. So it was a good risk. It was a good calculated risk that I do not regret.
What shows did you do prior to the Junior USA?
And that I did a different league. When I first started bodybuilding in 2018, I did a different league called PCA for a little bit. They're really big in Europe, not as big here. And pretty quickly I got to the top of their group when I did bikini, and I realized I wanted to go to the Olympia, and I wanted a little more competition. So I moved to the MC, and I did 2019, I did Hurricane Bay. Okay. And I won that. I did bodybuilding and physique. I won that. And then I went to Miami Nationals that year, and I got third. And then 2020, I did Tampa Pro. I did the NPC version. So that was August 2020. And then August 28th, about a couple weeks later, I won my pro card, and then I did New York Pro. So New York Pro was my fourth show.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing to win that big show.
Thanks.
So how long have you been training, period? Like you haven't been doing it that long, have you?
No. So I started training. I took my first check-in pictures ever in July 26, 2015. And then I did, so I started weightlifting, and I never weightlifted. I was always athletic. I was a junior Olympic gymnast most of my life until I got my back surgery. And then I moved on to, I did dance and theater and boxing for a while, but I never weight trained until the middle of 2018 is when I started, and I got on a meal plan, and I'd never been on like a meal plan either. So, I responded super quickly to just food and training alone. And I fell in love with it since then. So about almost 3 years now.
And was that the first show that you did was bikini? Is that right?
Yes, I did bikini, and I was way too peeled for bikini. I mean, I didn't have a lot of muscle, but I just got so lean. I had like separated quads on stage bikini. So, like, bring it down. And I really like how this is going. The more I weightlifted, the more I liked muscle, and my idea, femininity and strength and things like that changed a lot. So I just kind of was like, let's see where it goes. And by December of 2018, I was already past where what would be a good fit for figure. Wow. I went from like 105 pounds to probably 140 pounds. It was looking like Physique from there.
Right. You mentioned your back surgery. Now I've seen all the, on Instagram pictures of your back before and after and things. And, but I don't know the history of your back issues. What does it stem from? Was it an injury or something you were born with?
Right. So I have scoliosis, which is an abnormal curvature of your spine. So my spine, it's a genetic thing. I was adopted, so I didn't really have too much medical history or know to look out for that kind of thing, that it ran in my family or anything like that. So, and you don't really see it come out too much until you start growing, like in your puberty years, when your spine, you have that growth spurt and your spine starts growing as well. So once I was like 11-ish, my spine started really growing, and it started growing really crooked. So my spine, if you look at my x-ray, it looks like a capital S. Mm-hmm. So a normal person probably has like a 5-degree curve. That's maybe the borderline before you're diagnosed with scoliosis. I had like a 30-something degree and a 50-something degree curve. So I was a person that a back brace or anything like that wasn't gonna fix that. So I needed surgery. So I have 2 titanium rods like on either side of my spine, and then 24 screws, and I have 6 hooks hooking it all together. So I kind of describe it like a bowling ball. If my spine down the alley, it has bumpers now, right? So it can't grow crooked anymore. It corrected some of the curve. So now I have around like a 12-degree curve, which is, I still have a curve, but it's way more normalized, and it can't grow crooked anymore, and it's significantly more straight. And if I didn't get that surgery, I wouldn't have made it to my 20th birthday. My spine would have eventually pushed on all my major organs, like my lungs and everything, and they probably collapsed, and that would have been the end of me. So I was very lucky that I had the best, actually I had one of the best spine surgeons in the world, conveniently at All Children's in Tampa. And I recovered way more quickly than I should have, was told. But that ended my gymnastics career, which was, devastating for me at the time. That was my whole life. So I had to, redirect my drive to something else. And I stuck with a lot of things for a little. I was good at a lot of things. I was good at fighting. I was good at, dance and soccer and stuff, but it never, there was nothing that really took my heart more than maybe a year. And I'm one of those people where if I don't really have my heart in something or believe in something, I'm not going to last very long at it, even if I'm good at it. So bodybuilding, when I found that, I knew that was going to be something. This was going to be something that I was going to do for the rest of my life. So I'm lucky I found it.
Awesome. What age were you when you actually had the surgery?
I was 14. They told me when I was around 11 that I had scoliosis and it was going to get bad, and I should wear a brace pretty much almost the whole day, except for when I take a shower. but I was like, I was training 6 days a week, 3.5 hours a day, as a gymnast. So I was like, I'm not doing that. And by the time I was 14 and they told me I needed surgery, they told me that my case was severe enough that the brace probably wouldn't have done anything anyway. So I think it was like July 2014, I got my surgery. So I'm 28 now. So it's about, what is that, 10 years? Is that more than 10 years?
It's more than 10. It's 14? 14 maybe?
I'm not good at
math is hard. It's early too. So
Yeah.
do you think it was your athletic background that maybe helped you recover as fast as you did?
Yes, I think that was a big part of it. Like, just the fact that I was, as soon as I was allowed, like, and physically I was, out of the bed, I was doing the rehab stuff but a lot of it was my parents also, they never, I think a lot of people have limitations from surgeries, but I do believe in the power of the mind as well. And I think some people kind of limit themselves more than they need to. And I think if you don't look at yourself as limited, that can do a lot for your body. And I didn't. My parents were like, if you feel like you can go back to school for your first day of high school in August, or if you feel like you can go out there and, run, or if you want to go out there and do this sport, like, if you feel like you're ready, go give it a shot. Like, they were never like, Rachel, you're different now. You're disabled or anything like that. They never put that restriction in my head, and neither did I. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that I recovered so quickly, because I don't think looking back now, I know a lot more about that condition and that surgery, but I don't think at the time I realized how serious it was, or how life-changing it was and debilitating, and all of it could have been. So I think my mind, just the way I kept my mind, really is the reason that I got back on my feet so quickly.
Yeah, and it's great that you're paired with parents who had that mindset to not restrict you. Your natural mindset was to do that, to go forward and move on. But you're right, like, parents can sometimes be coddling more so than they used to be, and that they weren't is an amazing thing. That's great.
Yeah, I've had that. They're like, do it. You can do whatever you want. Just do it to the best of your ability, and just don't hurt anyone else in the process. But I've never had those parents who are, no, I'm scared for you to do this. They say trust your spirit and your heart. And obviously they're not going to put me in dangerous situations, but I think that was, for me, my sister and I both, that's the reason we are the women we are today. So
both you and your sister are adopted?
Yes, my sister is a year and 4 days older than me. She is adopted from another birth family. So my parents couldn't have kids, so they adopted her first. And on her first birthday, they went to the adoption agency office that arranged her adoption. And the lawyer was like, well, we have another one if you want to, take on the. And they were like, okay. So they got me too. And we were raised together since I was adopted when I was 2 weeks old, and she was adopted pretty much from the day she was born. So that's my sister and my family. And yeah, it's my story.
Awesome. I have a nephew who was adopted, and it's an amazing thing that happens between that type of child and parents who are
oh yeah,
so willing to take someone in like that, and want to be parents, so badly. So
it's the biggest gift. It's one thing for you'd be like, well, I'm obligated because, this person came from me, so I have to take care of them. But people, they just want to be parents, and they want to give their love and give someone a life so bad. My life, for sure. I know where I would be without them. I know how troubled of a kid I was anyways, with the best environment that I could have been given growing up. So if I didn't have people like that, I would not be in a good place. So they're definitely my guardian angels. Remind myself that every day of that.
You mentioned boxing. that you boxed as a youngster?
I did.
That's an interesting choice for a woman or a girl, young girl, to make.
Oh well, I'm not the average chick. So, but yeah, I mean, I was always a tomboy, and I mean, I liked I was angry as a kid too. I was just an angry kid. I was lost. I had a lot of identity issues, probably also from being adopted. I didn't know, who I really was, and I had a lot of pain and anger, and I got in a lot of fights at school. I got kicked out of a few schools. Blah blah blah. So my parents were like, once again, let's redirect this behavior into, instead of just bashing me all the time, they were very good about redirecting things. So, and I mean, that's kind of like bodybuilding too. People have a lot of pain and they redirect it into something positive. It's a blessing. So that's kind of boxing. My parents were like, let's go in the gym and do this, and you can learn something instead of, doing it out here and getting in trouble. So I did. And I was really good at it. I was great at it. But like I said, my heart wasn't like, I wouldn't die for it.
Yeah.
I thought of when I woke up in the morning, the first thing I thought of when I went to bed. So, and I actually hurt my foot throwing a kick, sparring. And that was one of the reasons that I took a little break. I was like, oh, I'm going to take a little break. And they had a weight room in my boxing gym. It was like just a couple dumbbells and like maybe a Smith machine or something. But so I was like, well, maybe I'll just do some like weight stuff for a while this heals. And then I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I really like this. And then I got into more of the nutrition aspect. And once I got on the meal plan, it was rest in peace for boxing for me.
Who's your coach right now?
Shelby Stone.
Shelby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been with him the whole time?
No. So when I first began bodybuilding, I had a local coach around here, and I did as much as I could with him. To be honest, it started getting dark towards the end, just like the things that were I was kind of the road I was being led down. And we all make our own choices, so I don't put blame on anybody, but I had pretty much done everything I could do to try to make that work. And I'm a pretty loyal person, so it took me a lot to leave, and did leave my first coach in, I think it was June 2020, so last year. And I had always seen Shelby because he posts these great like things on Instagram. He does these blurbs that are just like super deep, philosophical, and so brings the ladies in really peeled, and I like that.
He's amazing.
Oh yeah, so I'd always kept an eye on him, and I was always like, if I went somewhere, it would be, I think, him. And I just felt like I just knew he was supposed to be my coach. So I weeks out from Tampa Pro. This was in, like I said, June 2020 last year, and I just broke up with my coach. I was, I was in a bad place. I was like, health wise, I was not in a good place. I just got fired from my job because I was like skipping work to go bodybuild and stuff. And I pretty much had lost like a lot of things. I was almost ready to kind of call it quits on bodybuilding. And then I reached out to him and I said, look, I'm supposed to do New York. I was supposed to do Tampa Pro, the amateur, in about 8 weeks. And I am in a shitty place, and I look terrible. I looked about 12 weeks out, and I titled the email Emergency Prep Inquiry. And I was like, you think we can like do this? And he was like, let's give it a shot. And, he didn't say yes or no. And we just started working, and we've won every show together. And he's just become an incredible mentor to me, and friend and coach. And it was the best email I ever sent. So Shelby Stone is my coach now and probably forever. So I love him, and I have nothing good things to say about him. He's another one of my angels.
I only met him briefly once, but I know people who have worked with him, and his track record is amazing. Really brings girls in shredded, and
He is.
Go ahead.
No, he is. I was just agreeing.
You seem like you're kind of you lean out pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about easy. I still work my.
Yeah.
I'm not one of his girls who are like 800 grams of carbs a day and just looking, they look nuts all the time. I know I do an hour, maybe I go up to about an hour of cardio. Like right now, I'm about an hour of cardio, and I carb cycle down. Once I get there, my body will snap pretty quickly. And I never have trouble being lean on stage. My glutes always come in, and my legs and everything. I'm pretty known for my my leanness, and have to be a little careful sometimes not to get, start getting like cross striated and stuff, because I've actually had points taken off in shows for that. So, but yeah, finding the balance. My issue more is holding on to the muscle and keeping the full look. I've never had a problem with the leanness. So, but that's a thing Shelby's cracked, a code Shelby's cracked for me, because before I'd always come on stage flat. I'd be peeled, but I'd be flat, and he got me right. So I think seeing me win my pro card and those pictures and stuff, and that was the first time I ever really looked at stage pictures and been like, wow, like you got to keep the muscle that you worked for, and you came in peeled, and that's super cool. That's the goal, right? So
yeah. When you won your pro card, it was that physique. There's a few people who turn pro that I like look at and I go, oh, that's a pro. That's that person's pro.
You did. You said it before I did New York. Oh, you were like, I think she might do something. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, no, you had what it takes, and obviously you won the New York Pro. So
yeah.
But
go ahead.
No. You mentioned about dance. You were you dancing from what age?
Oh man, I always danced, whether class or not. Like I was just always moving around, listening to music since I was a little baby, and I think I got more into dance like professionally after my back surgery, because I couldn't do gymnastics anymore, and I figured that was kind of close. I couldn't flip, right, but I still wanted to move, and I moved on to dance. I got really into hip hop, like street dancing, urban stuff like that. I also did, trained classic ballet, jazz, things like that. But then I got hired on to like a backup dancing group, I guess, with about, maybe 5-6 other people. And we did a lot of backup dancing for celebrities all over Florida and the US. And that was like some of the best days ever. It was super fun. And but then I went to college and came home, and that's when I got more into, fighting and stuff. But I still always danced, but I kind of put it down, and back after, before I went to college, I put it away, and it always kind of made me sad that I didn't have it anymore. And I think when I first started bodybuilding, I thought that I couldn't, I had to give up that life, right? So I think it was until I started posing, and looking into that and seeing that was a part of this, that's when I kind of got that fire back. And I was like, well, maybe I can make my own kind of style. And I was like, we'll see if they like that or if this is allowed. And I was a little hesitant, but I just said, screw it. And I got on stage and did what I wanted to do. And I was like, like that moment where you're like, yes, no, and everyone, yes.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm like, so I feel like now I get to incorporate that, and hopefully those other people that, you don't have to give up a certain artistic part of yourself just because you're a bodybuilder now. And hopefully it encourages these other girls posing together.
Yeah. Your posing artistry is, you're one of the top people in the pros, I think, in any division, whether it's women's or classic physique or men's bodybuilding. Your posing is amazing. And so I figured you either had a dancing background or you were someone who had been following bodybuilding for years and years and were inspired by certain posers, but you haven't really followed bodybuilding that long, have you?
Never did bodybuilding ever until I started bodybuilding. But even then, if I'm going to be honest, I remember I went to a bodybuilding show and I did bikini and I was like, this is so boring. Like, I was like, I don't like I like being on stage, but I was like, I hate watching this. This is really boring. Cause like everyone just looked like they hated being up there. And I like, I know it sucks being up there when you're tired. But I was like, make me feel something, like, Jesus.
Exactly.
But also, I mean, to touch on what you said, I tried to start researching posing. And I think I got lucky. By lucky mistake, none of like the current posing and current shows came up. Like the first things that came up were like, Frank Zane and like Labrada and like all these old guys. And so I was like watching guys. Oh, this is like what you're supposed to do. Like, this is really serious. And these guys look like, dancing Greeks gods. So I was like, okay, so the standard, I was kind of ignorant because I didn't know how the current competitors in the NPC were posing. So I was like, this is how everyone poses. And I need to look at these guys and I need to learn from them. And I need to be just as good, if not better, to be competitive on the stage. And that worked to my benefit a lot because when I showed up to my first show, I was probably way more prepared than I needed to be. And that's great. Yeah, great. So I'm glad I did that. But
yeah, the posing standards went down tremendously, like in the 2000s. And that's because Ronnie Coleman was Mr. Olympia. Not putting him down, but he's not a great poser. But he didn't need to be because he was a freak. So he was winning shows like this, and so people were looking at that and going, "That's the standard." And the artistry kind of faded a bit.
Yeah,
but
went more towards like, how big can I be on stage? Is like how well can I showcase my physique? So hopefully we'll do that a little bit, because sometimes you can show based on your posing. And I'm not the girl on stage. Like, I've never been the biggest girl. I've actually always been the smallest girl. I found, use that to my advantage. I have to probably place more on posing because I have way myself look a lot bigger than these girls. And better.
When you first come out on stage, the first time I saw you, you kind of hit this pose. It's like your arms are down to your side. You're looking down. If I didn't know, I would think you're like 5 foot tall, right? 5'1", something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I didn't know, I would think you were 5'8" or something. If I saw you on stage by yourself, you have a big presence, and that is what. Yeah, that's important to have that big presence. Some people, there's a bodybuilder named Muhammad Makwi from the 80s who is an amazing poser. Yeah. One of my favorite posing artists, but he's a very small guy. But he would sometimes like be small the way he posed. He wouldn't be out there. You're huge the way you pose, and it's awesome.
That's funny you said that, because that was a really good piece of advice I got from Ben Pikowski. Actually, he told me that a while ago that you need to pose big. Everything needs to be big, reaching. And you do. So true. It is. Use your space. If you look at a lot of my poses, even my mandatories, like my side tricep isn't straight on. My legs are out. My abs and thighs are out. Everything's out. And that was one of the best pieces of advice I got, because it does matter, especially when you're up next to girls who have 30, 40 pounds.
Yeah. You have to emphasize your strengths. And with posing, do you work with Kenny or no? Kenny, yes. Well,
Kenny on my mandatories. He does. He got me after he posed at Junior USA's, and he's friends with Shelby, so he Shelby and was like, I need to talk to her, and he grabbed me. I met him in this little like hotel gym like the day after I won my pro card, right before I was about to drive back home. And he like, just he tore me apart and put me back together really quick. And it was great. I mean, it was like the best in the best way. Just making my poses bigger, like I said, myself bigger. He was like, "That's great for the NPC. That's not gonna fly at New York Pro." I was like, okay, show me your ways. And he did. If you know Kenny, he's like the sweetest person ever, but he's very intense poser, like posing coach, and I like that. That's my style. So he helped my mandatories a ton, and I still check in with him because even though I'm a posing coach and I might have all the moves, there's still stuff I don't see, and there's still get slapped on that he's got the eye that a lot of like, oh, that looks great to me.
Yeah, Kenny's eye is amazing. I know Kenny pretty well, and one of my other favorite posers of all time is Labrada, and I think most people consider him one of the greats. And Kenny one time said, "Hey, I saw that you said that Lee is your favorite," and I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "He's not my favorite," and I was like, "Why?" He goes, "Well, some of his poses, if you look, when he hits his back double, he never opens up. He's always like this, and it's crunched together." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, but okay." So then I'd go back and watch and I go, "Oh yeah, he could be better." As good as he was, he could be better. And it was sort of like that with you, because like I thought you were perfect in winning the Junior USAs. I wouldn't, and I think I got a good eye, but I don't think I would have been like, she needs to work on her posing.
Yeah,
so it's pretty amazing that he can see the potential there and actually bring it out.
It's just a gift, like that everyone doesn't have, and it's like, it's also, you have a lot of these posing coaches, they might be great posers, but it's like, are you a great teacher? Like, can you teach this to somebody else in a way that they're going to understand it? And also, just because that front double looks great on you, you can't put that on everyone else. I can't do certain. Kenny's so great to me. I just met with him this morning. Like, this is a perfect example on my quarter turns, right? I don't have the same spinal mobility as most people. I can't turn. So I'm not going to give away his tricks, but I'm saying he's so advanced to the point where he can work with someone who has a spinal fusion and give the illusion, that I, with my limitations, make me look unlimited on stage. And that's like, that's
amazing.
Talent.
Yeah. He's phenomenal. He's someone I need to get on the show just because I know he's got so many stories and worked with so many greats. So
long.
So different topic. Dave Bautista. What is? How do you know Dave?
Oh, I'm actually at gym right now. I'm in Joe Bennett's office. Joe's letting me use his office, but I know Dave because, well, after New York Pro, actually, he hit me up and said he wanted to meet with me, and I was like, okay. And his gym is like, he's got a gym, but it's not for everyone. It's just his spot. But he is very close to me, and so I went and met with him, and we trained legs. I was like, "Want to do some legs?" And we did, and we just talked, and I told him story, and we have similar spirits. We've both been through a lot, and I think we're both super genuine. And he was like, I know it's hard sometimes if you get away from all the people when you're like working on your art and stuff, because he'd seen me pose and stuff, and it gets hard sometimes to create things when you know that a whole gym of people are watching you do whatever you do. And I really appreciated that. So he, opened his gym up to me. Well, it's his MMA studio upstairs, but I go there and pose. And I mean, I did that all the way up to the Olympia, and it was like such a blessing for me. I created so much and worked on so much that I wouldn't have been able to, because I didn't have a spot to be alone and not be bothered and free and vulnerable. He gave me that. So David's been my good friend, and he's a great dude, and he's probably the only person I've met that's famous that like it never has probably changed since before he was famous. Like, he's just a good person.
as I was a huge fan of his as when he was wrestling, and you know, in professional wrestling, people are often bigger than life in terms of how they portray themselves. Mm-hmm. He was always just very natural. Like his interviews were really real, and I think that comes from like probably a fullness of experience of his own. You know, instead of having to create something, he was able to be himself, and that bleeds over into his acting because he's really natural.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm fanboying, but
I'll tell him you say hi.
When it comes to performing, do you feel a nervousness at all on stage, or what is your mindset?
That's a good question.
Stage?
No one's ever asked me that, but I was actually thinking about that the other day because I was looking at this picture of me at New York Pro, and I was like, I don't remember that. Like, and then I started to realize I was like, I don't really remember being on stage much at all. And I think that kind of comes from, I do remember from my shows is always being that second when you're backstage, when you're literally on the stairs lined up and the person's waiting to bring you out there. I remember that. And right then I'm nervous. Like, you know, I'm nervous. I am. I get nervous just like everybody else. But then the second I get on stage, it's almost like the opposite of what you think. Like you think you wouldn't be nervous, then you get on stage and then you're like, oh my God. Mine's the opposite. So when I'm right off stage and I'm just on the stairs before I'm up there, I'm real anxious, nervous, trying to breathe. And then I get on stage and it all just disappears and I relax and I lighten up. I become myself and I find peace, and all the thoughts of my life disappear in my head and everything gets quiet, and it's just a moment of bliss that I have never found another way to obtain. So I'm never nervous on stage. I'm just getting the peace that I think I worked for my whole prep. But I'm nervous before, and I'm definitely nervous like the days before. I won't sleep well or anything like that, mm-hmm. But never on stage, thankfully.
Are you more nervous prior to doing your routines or the actual competition part where you're being compared?
No, prejudging, I'm nervous because I'm like, you know, that's at least after prejudging, I have an idea of like where you stand. And by the time you get on for the routine, you're kind of just like, you know, this is it. Like, it doesn't really matter what I do. Like most cases, they're not gonna, you know, change this. So it's usually for prejudging. Oops.
I just lost you. There you are.
Yeah, usually for prejudging, because I mean, you can go out there and do whatever on your routine if you really wanted to. It's right. Not judged. So, but right. More so for the prejudging. I'm like, you know, I'm just standing there. Don't move. But yeah.
Before shows, and you've only done a couple pro shows where you would actually probably know who you're competing against, but do you look at the lineup and kind of think who do you worry about or where you might place within that grouping, or do you just think about yourself?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So I never do that at all, because I mean, when you're an amateur, it's actually kind of hard to find like who's going to do shows because nobody knows who anybody really is anyways. So I never really did that. I was really focused on myself. But I think after my pro card, I started getting ready for, you know, those 6 days between New York Pro and just getting my pro card. You know, people started sending me these girls that were like going to be on stage with me. And they're like, these are the girls you're going up against. And I was like, oh God. So I did for a little bit look at them like, oh my God, these, you know, I got a little, and I told my coach, I was like, are you sure? Like these girls are, you know, freaking huge. And they're like, I don't look like that. And he was, you know, my coach was like, don't worry about them. Shelby always tells me when you try to compare yourself, well, he says, remember that you need to focus on the things that you can control. Like you can't control how those other girls look. You can't control anything they do, but you can control your diet, your posing, and things that you do. So anything else that you worry about that's out of your control is only going to be harmful to you. But I do think it's important that you stand by that, because I've found that the more I get into this and the deeper I go, and the more you achieve, the more you do start comparing, or you get this sense that you have a higher, platform to fall off of now, right? And I do best when I go into things with no expectations and the nothing to lose mentality. So my biggest thing is keeping that mentality and not thinking, oh my God, well, she looks like this. Because, if I look at my day, if I go through my day and say like, oh my God, this girl looks so good. Like, oh my God, I don't know how to beat that. Like, what is that going to do for me besides probably work the rest of the day? I could have been doing something to better myself in those moments. So I try not to. I try not to look at these other girls. I mean, whoever shows up, shows up. I'm just going to show up like there's going to be 20 Rachel Daniels backstage with me. And if I do that, then I'll set the standard pretty high.
Right. That's great. I think that's the healthiest mentality to have going into shows.
It's easier said than done, but
I can imagine. I mean, I haven't done it, but I can imagine that's true. Especially as you say, as you move higher up, and you move up pretty high very fast. I probably would have at the Olympia. You could easily have been. You placed 7th, yeah.
Yes,
You're 7th. I could see you in 6th or 5th in that show. If you had qualified for this year's Olympia last year, I don't think anyone would have thought that it was weird. I just lost you again. There you are. So
I needed to be
right there.
I was like, I could have got last and happy, but the competitor in me was like, let's shoot for top 10, girlfriend, and I did. I got top 10, and that was insane. Looking at my pictures and talking to the judges and everything, I think I needed to be I was really lean, but I think I needed to be a little tighter, like a little drier.
Mm-hmm.
But
were you drier? You were drier in New York? Yeah,
I was drier in New York. I was not as full. So I think we were trying to, keep the fullness a little harder, a little higher. And I was probably about 3 pounds more at the Olympia than I was at New York. But I think it really just being a little drier. I was equally and I had more muscle, which was nice. So that would be a perfect look. But that's the easy, to me, that's like great feedback, because that's like an easy fix. So just like changing water protocol a little bit, that's like nothing. The judges didn't really tell me to get, much bigger. They were like, don't go try to get bigger. You don't really need to. My thing is really, I just haven't been doing this long enough. Like I need more muscle maturity. And that comes with me doing the same thing I've been doing for a longer amount of time. So, I'd love to see how I look when I'm like 30 or 32. Give me a couple of more years, So it's like we made it here. I'm at the Olympia, and I'm just going to be back every year, getting better, working my way up to that spot.
Yes. Did they mention anything about body parts, anything that needs to come up or come down?
They said I need my back a little thicker. So I have a pretty wide back, but it's not as dense as it needs to be, if that makes sense. So I need more of that 3D look. The width is good. I could always be wider, but I definitely need to be a little more dense. And I already am, but that's another thing that just comes with the muscle maturity.
Yes.
My chest could be a little bit bigger. My arms maybe a little bigger, but nothing. So, but for me, I have to do all kinds of stuff for my back, because it just doesn't train the same as other people's, and I have to do weird posing stuff to make myself look symmetrical to the audience. When I
would never know. I would never have known.
Well, then I'm doing it right.
Do you have, is there pain involved in your back currently?
Yeah, I'm always going to have pain, but that's just, it's not from my spine. It's more so from just the muscles. I have a lot of scar tissue in my back from my surgery. I have a lot of, bound up muscles and stuff. So I probably have to do more stretching than the average athlete. I have to probably put more emphasis on my, recovery and chiropractic stuff, and things like that. But it's nothing that's going to stop me, if that makes sense. I'm not at the Ronnie Coleman level. Like,
right. Yes.
It's stuff
go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's stuff I can work with. That's awesome.
Right. That's it. Do you plan on staying in women's physique, or do you ever think about bodybuilding?
Well, my friend Alina Popo is always like, a bodybuilder. But
all the bodybuilder girls always try to get the women's physique girls to come on over. They need youth in that division. There's not a whole lot of that there. I'm not telling you to do that, but I was just curious.
Oh, yeah. But I don't think so. Honestly, I'm a tiny chick as it is. Not that super matters, but I think some people don't realize, like, if you put me next to, some of the Olympian bodybuilders, that's a lot for my frame. Mm-hmm. And I could probably get there, but it wouldn't be till like my mid 30s. But still, I ask myself, like, is that really I love women's bodybuilding and I love that look, like, but I love women's physique look a little bit more, if that makes sense. Yeah. So
it's also for what's best for you as a person, as an individual too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not like I couldn't do it. I think I could do it. But I think my heart is more in women's physique, and I want to dominate women's physique for a while and leave my mark on it. And I'm getting started right now. So I still got a lot to do in this category before I go to other ones.
Yeah. Okay. Some people do jump fast, but I think you're wise to stay there, because
already. I mean, I skipped figure, so
yeah. And it's clearly a good choice for you because you're doing so well so fast.
Thank you.
Is there anyone that you want to thank or mention, or anything you want to say to your fans out there?
Titan Medical, my sponsor, so they're great, and I actually signed with them again for another year, and they believed in me back when I was an amateur. It's on me, and so they're amazing, and I thank them for everything they do. My coach, Shelby Stone, he already knows how much he means to me. Kenny, and my family already knows. And you, all the athletes love you. There's like a lot of fan pages and stuff, but they usually just, throw up pictures. But you've always taken so much time to really like put history behind it and put your opinion. And it's not like an playing opinion. All your opinions are educated, and I think they're pretty unbiased. And I think you can tell that you literally love our industry, and you support the women as well as the men. And so I love people like you, and it was super cool to meet you in person at the Olympia.
Yeah, I was so pleased with who you were, if that makes sense. You meet as a fan, you meet people at these meet and greets, and sometimes you're like, oh, okay, that's there. But you're wonderful. So it was great to find that out. Yeah,
you're so sweet. You're awesome. Yeah. I'm sure I'll see you the next in Orlando again.
Yeah. I can't. I think from what I've heard that there might be a multi-year deal there with that both that show and possibly the New York Pro being in Florida for a bit, but I don't know. So that's good for you.
I literally live in the best world now.
If you were to, let's say you qualify for the Olympia at this Olympia, you qualify for next year's Olympia, would you do a show during the season at all? Or would you take a full off year?
I like the strategist in me says no. Like, why? Why kind of be through that? Why kind of put your body through that just to put it through it? That's not really enough for me, because I go really hard when I prep mentally and stuff too. But the other side of me says, like, I might, because I'm just one of those people, if I don't get on stage for a certain amount of time, I'm like, I kind of lose my sense of purpose a little bit, like I know I like getting on stage and performing. So I don't know. I've never been a whole year without almost without being on stage. I kind of have to see what I'd feel. But it would be up to Shelby at the end of the day. I'd leave that one to him. Leave the hard.
There's something to be said too about, building a legacy. If you can win Olympia after Olympia after Olympia, that's something there's your legacy. You've done this, right? But for people who place in like the top fives and don't compete during the year, like say at the Arnold or a big show like the New York Pro, I think they not only leave money off the table and not in their purse, but it's also their legacy gets kind of
I agree.
But
no, I'd like to hold New York Pro for a while if I can.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Do a run.
No, it's cool. It is cool. Yeah. And I'd like to win. Nothing against the point system at all, but I'm for myself, I don't think you'll see me going to the Olympia unless I win a pro show. Like that's just how I feel about it. To their own, but I just at the point where I want to win the entire thing for me to feel like I earned going to the Olympia.
Yeah, I know people with that mindset too. I also know people who have turned pro without winning, getting second place in something that qualifies to be a pro. And I know a competitor who I'm not going to say a name, but who I respect greatly as a competitor and as a person, who I know has some sort of weird feelings of guilt, that they became a pro without winning. And then their mind, that bothers them. So I think some competitors and people like yourself who I can see how qualifying on points could be bothersome. But at the same point, if you qualify, you qualify.
Well, I mean, it's to each their own, and
yes.
But if you look at it, and I don't know, people may not let me sing this, but I don't care. But if you look at it, it's like some shows they have national qualifiers where they'll let like first, second, and third go to nationals, and that's great. Like some people just really want to say that they went to nationals and check that off their goal list, and that's awesome and totally respect that. But at the same time, if you got third at your national qualifier with the local and you already got beat by two other people locally, how do you think you're going to stand up? Unless there was some big error, I don't think you're going to stand up at possibly getting first at nationals if you got third at the playoffs. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. No. Yes. Absolutely.
So that's kind of how I am, and it's not like, I don't want to do a show unless I'm going to win, but like, I kind of want to set myself up for success.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, that's how I feel. So I'm saying, I can win the pro show. I've established I'm the best right here at this moment against these pros. Now let me go to the Olympia with all the other women who are also the best and give them my best, give them their best competition too. So that's how I feel, but to each their own. And just like the Olympia, some people just want to say they went to the Olympia, and that's totally understandable. Who would?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know people who it's interesting with competitors, like as a fan, to me, going to the Olympia, someone who's in the Olympia, someone who finishes single digits in the Olympia, someone who finishes top 5, like to me, that's like, wow, like as a fan, it's like, that's the cream of the crop. If you're in the single digits of the Olympia, but it's not good enough for some competitors. I know people who've placed, I won't name numbers, but very, very well at the Olympia and come away very dissatisfied, but that speaks to the competitor in them. So,
right. Well, it's that, like, it's that balance. I mean, like on one hand, you have self-love and being like, the fact, because I do it to myself too, like I'm my hardest critic. Nothing's good enough for me. But at the same time, I'm my biggest fan. So it's like you have to say, like, wow, this was incredible that you went to the Olympia and you got 7th in the world and you did all this and then pump yourself up.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's that other voice in your head that's saying 7th isn't first. No, that's not good enough. And we need to do better. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the reasons that you see certain athletes do incredible things is because they have that fire under them that says like, you know, this isn't enough. Do more, do more, do more. Because if they were, well, that was good enough, you wouldn't see them do incredible things.
Exactly.
But it's just balance. It's just balance because you don't want to get to a certain point where it's just such self-hate that you never give yourself a high five for any of the great stuff you do. Because then
you need both of those. You need both of those things to continue doing better. Because if you just put down on yourself for not achieving what you wanted to achieve, you're probably not going to do it. So
exactly, it's a tricky balance.
Well, Rachel, I want to thank you so much for coming on here and talking with me.
I had so much fun.
Great. It was a good time. I appreciate you. And I hope that we can do this again and hopefully after the New York Pro, celebrate a little bit on This is Bodybuilding for you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
I wish
All
you
right.
the
Thank
best.
you so much, Rachel. Thanks
right.
everyone for watching. This is Michael Bryson, Rachel Daniels, and this is Bodybuilding. Take care. And I don't know how to stop it. Oh, there we go.